People are wising up in America, realizing who's really in control over there.
Do they also accuse you of
They're,
being a
they're,
conspiracy
they're,
theorist?
they're coming around.
At what age did you become turned on to these narratives outside of the mainstream?
It's when I arrived in Israel and I started reading the paper Haaretz, which I thought was a high level
Highbrow, yeah.
intellectual newspaper, and I wasn't aware of what this publication was really about. I thought it was edgy, I thought it would be edgy, brainy, revealing. I found out that this is a fifth this is a Gais Hamishi. This is what's the expression from the
Fifth
enemy
column?
within?
Fifth
A
column?
fifth column. This is the fifth column. The leftists in Israel are a fifth column.
And how old were you? How old were you then? What year was that?
Well, I arrived in Israel in 2005. That's 19 years ago. I guess I was 31.
Okay.
I was 31 years old. Okay. And I'd already gotten really withdrawn with America. And I was already beginning to question the reality of what was going on in America. And I began learning about the Israeli left. I'd always heard things. I'd always felt certain kind of condescension from them, a certain kind of sense of self-importance and a sense of supremacy coming from them, like they're the elite, they're the ruling class.
You felt that you'd withdrawn from America prior to moving to Israel. You similarly found yourself alienated from the government in Israel. So that must have been incredibly traumatic and isolating.
Yeah, it was isolating. I felt alienated. I felt withdrawn, and I went on the attack. That's when I started listening to Alex Jones and InfoWars. That's when I started searching out alternative media, alternative forms of information, alternative explanations as to of history, revisionism of history. That's when I ran into the book Caesar's Messiah by Joseph Atwell.
So when you started embracing the Alex Jones narratives and other dissident thinkers, how did the people close to you react?
For the longest time, they thought I was crazy, that I was paranoid, that they didn't want to hear me talking about these things. But when they began realizing that I'm associating it with end times messianic prophecies that are being fulfilled right now, and
so you feel redeemed.
I took a great part. I was a big contributor to Alex Jones in his comment sections. I had a great influence on him. I also was very strong into helping Trump get elected the first time around.
So how did you have the time to do all this for Alex Jones and for Donald Trump? Like, what did you carve out?
I don't belong in Israeli society. I don't belong in American society. I'm kind of a misfit. I'm an in-between. I could call myself like an internationalist type of person, a multiculti type of person. I did manage to eventually, because I felt hurried, I felt rushed, and it's not that I lack the ability. I forced myself to bang a chick and actually get her pregnant and be a dad because I wanted to be a father. And I threw caution to the wind. And so if the marriage didn't work out, at least I'm a father. I'm gratified with that. But I didn't have many Israeli friends. Very few. I made friends online, Americans mostly, with the same mindset. I'm detached from Israeli society, and I'm also detached from American society.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of
detached from a lot of different communities. So when you say that you're a misfit, what did that mean?
I know that I have to be employed and earn a salary to get by and survive. But my anticipation and my ambition is to see this world turned upside its head.
How many people would you be able to walk up to in real life and they would beam and be glad to see you?
My family members, I'm a likable person, but they didn't like it when I used to go off on my conspiracy theory rants or about Jesus being an invention of the Romans, even from back then. I'd say about 20, 30 people. I had a close-knit group of people that, were my support group, but they didn't appreciate the fact that even way back then, I was talking about we're going into a period prior to Messianic revelation, and these are the end times, and they didn't want to believe me. They thought I was crazy.
So
They gave me ugly looks. They gave me like they turned they rolled their eyes sometimes, and sometimes they didn't want to even be around me. But I was a kind of I had self-awareness, so I wasn't constantly obsessing. I had self-control.
and
But
did any of them just cut you out of their lives, or you managed to avoid that?
No, they didn't. But friends at work, once they realized what I believed and the positions I took, some of them did gossip. I don't care anymore. I didn't care because I'm very much committed to my beliefs.
You were consigned to lower status, and so that drove you to seek an alternative community where you could be high in status.
And that was online with people that thought the same way I did. And I was influencing them, and they were influencing me.
And were you able to find a synagogue that shared your dissident perspectives?
No, very primitive people in the synagogues, both the Ashkenazi and the Sephardic and the Mizrahi. They needed to get beaten over the head with a lot of terrible events to be convinced that we are upon Messianic revelation and end times. I was well ahead of my time.
On a typical day, how much time do you get to spend around people who love you as opposed to being online where there's a whole community of people who love you?
No, I avoid people as much as possible. I've become antisocial. I go out to restaurants, I go to the beach, but I don't go looking to be in the company of people for too long.
So in your real life, you get to spend very little time around people who love you, as opposed to being online where there are dozens of people who love you.
Sure.
You've had an incredibly painful life, but the benefit of all the pain that you've been through is that you see through the bullshit that normal people don't see through. Is that fair?
Right. Yes. Suffering builds character.
And so even in your suffering, and when people would tell you to shut up or they minimize their time with you, what gave you the strength to carry on was this realization that you, unlike them, you saw through the bullshit.
Not only seeing through the bullshit, I was convinced. I had conviction, and my conviction came not only through me, from me. It came from God. People told me, stop talking about Mashiach, stop talking about Messiah, stop talking about end times. It's distasteful. It puts us off. And then over the years, events took place, and things started rolling downhill, and then reality began hitting people in the face, the truth.
And would you like for your son to have the same sort of pain, but realizations that you've suffered, or would you prefer for him to have a more conventionally connected and successful life?
Obviously, the second. And now I'm not concerned about him having to go through what I went through. Absolutely, that's another part of my belief system and my convictions. I'm very satisfied and very calmed and very tranquil. I'm very at peace with the fact that he will have a far easier, far better life and far less, torment than I did, because we are upon Messianic revelation. So my son will be spared having to go what I went through.
And did you see people socializing, going to the beach together, going to dinner together, and do you feel any envy of them, or do you feel sadness that they don't see through the bullshit?
The second. I feel sad for them that they don't want to see, they can't see, and they can't challenge themselves, and they're willfully ignorant.